love Sansa as I loved her mother.
And Jon Snow grabs him by the throat before the sentence is even finished. Because that line isn't a declaration of affection. It's the most dangerous thing Petyr Baelish has said in 7 seasons. Not because it's a threat, but because it's the truth. And the truth of what Littlefinger feels for Sansa is the most unsettling thing in this entire crypt. This is Season 7, Episode 2, A Torchlit Room. 2 men standing over Ned Stark's bones. And what looks like a brief, violent confrontation is actually the clearest distillation of everything Jon Snow is and everything Littlefinger isn't, expressed in the space between one sentence and a hand around a throat. First, we need some context. Jon has just been declared king in the north. He's preparing to leave for Dragonstone to meet Daenerys and pursue Dragonglass. His position is precarious, his legitimacy questioned by his own lords. And Littlefinger, who saved the North at the Battle of the Bastards by arriving with the Knights of the Vale at the last possible moment, knows that Jon owes him something. Or at least believes Jon can be made to feel that he does. So he follows him into the crypt, alone, away from witnesses, into the one room in Winterfell where Ned Stark's absence is most physically present. And that choice of location is everything. Because Littlefinger has always understood that the most effective conversations happen on ground the other person considers safe. A crypt is the last place anyone expects to be manipulated, which is precisely why he chose it.
I delivered his bones myself. Presented them to Lady Catelyn as a gesture of goodwill from Tyrion Lannister. Seems like a lifetime ago.
His opening move. Before Jon has said a single word, Littlefinger is already building a claim to this room, establishing a history with the Stark family that predates Jon entirely. He delivered Ned's bones. He knew Catelyn. He has been woven into the fabric of Stark history long before Jon arrived. This is Martin's Littlefinger operating exactly as constructed throughout the books, not as a villain who announces himself, but as someone who builds legitimacy through proximity and shared history, always positioning himself as the helpful background presence before revealing what he actually wants. In A Storm of Swords, Martin writes Littlefinger as a man who understands that the most dangerous kind of influence is the kind nobody notices being exerted. The crypt visit isn't grief, it's groundwork.
Do give Lord Tyrion my best when you see him.
Casual, almost throwaway. But it tells Jon 2 things simultaneously. That Littlefinger knows exactly where he's going and why, and that he has connections on every side of this war. The opening move of a man who wants to be seen as indispensable before the actual conversation begins.
I was sorry when he died. Your father and I had our differences, but he loved Cat very much. So did I.
He looks up at Ned's statue as he says it. The audacity of this moment is breathtaking. Littlefinger standing in front of the bones of a man whose death he helped engineer, expressing sorrow, using that sorrow to establish intimacy with Ned's son. The "so did I" slipped in so quietly you almost miss it. Almost.
She wasn't fond of you, was she? Well, it appears she vastly underestimated you.
He finds the wound and presses it. Catelyn's treatment of Jon is the most painful, unresolved relationship of his childhood. Something he could never speak about, never challenge, never fix, because she's dead, and the conversation can never happen. And Littlefinger brings it up casually, immediately followed by a compliment designed to make the wound feel like a testament to Jon's strength. This is Machiavelli's principle from The Prince in its most sophisticated form. Appear to give while actually taking. Littlefinger makes Jon feel seen and validated while simultaneously pressing his most vulnerable place. The flattery and the wound are the same move.
Your father and brothers are gone, yet here you stand, king in the north. Last best hope against the coming storm.
And the flattery peaks here, designed precisely for Jon, a man who doesn't want a crown, who has never sought power, who would genuinely rather not be anyone's last best hope. Littlefinger understands that Jon can't be bought with simple compliments. But he can be reached through duty, through the weight of what he owes the people counting on him. It's the most sophisticated thing Littlefinger does in this entire scene, and it doesn't work at all.
You don't belong down here.
Jon's first words, not a political statement, completely literal. You don't belong in this room, with these people, with these bones. The crypt belongs to Starks and the people who earned the right to stand among them. Littlefinger has earned nothing here, and Jon, who has spent his entire life watching people claim things they haven't earned, recognizes it instantly and names it without ceremony.
To Forgive me, we haven't ever talked properly. I wanted to remedy that.
The false humility. Forgive me. As if he wandered down here by accident. As if this entire encounter wasn't engineered from the moment Jon left the Great Hall. But Jon doesn't engage with the performance. He cuts straight through it.
I have nothing to say to you.
Not anger, not hostility, a flat statement of fact. Jon Snow is not a political operator. He doesn't speak in subtext or manage conversations toward desired outcomes. He says what's true. And what's true is that he has assessed Littlefinger, quickly, instinctively, with the same directness he brings to a battlefield, and found nothing worth engaging with. This is the fundamental difference between Jon and almost every other major character in the show. Where Sansa learned to play the game, where Tyrion learned to outwit, where Daenerys learned to leverage power, Jon simply refuses to participate in something he considers beneath the actual work of survival. Littlefinger builds elaborate chess positions. Jon flips the board. And the reason Littlefinger can't work with that isn't that Jon is naive. It's that you cannot manipulate someone whose every move is genuine.
Not even thank you. If it weren't for me, you'd have been slaughtered on that battlefield.
Debt. The one thing he thinks might actually move Jon. And it's technically true. Without the Knights of the Vale, Jon dies at the Battle of the Bastards. But what Littlefinger fundamentally misunderstands is that gratitude and trust are not the same thing. You can be grateful to someone for saving your life and still understand with complete clarity that they did it for reasons entirely disconnected from caring whether you lived. Jon makes that distinction in about half a second, and Littlefinger, reading his face, knows the debt card didn't land. So he reaches for the oath.
You have many enemies, my king, but I swear to you I'm not one of them.
The title, My King, slipped in right before the oath, which is itself the tell, because Littlefinger never acknowledges a king without calculating what that king can do for him. Machiavelli devoted an entire chapter of The Prince to why oaths and promises mean nothing without the incentives that back them. A ruler who relies on sworn words will always find himself betrayed. Littlefinger's oath here is a political instrument, not a moral commitment. Jon, who has taken oaths that nearly destroyed him and kept them anyway at enormous personal cost, hears the hollow center of it immediately. And then, running out of moves, Littlefinger reaches for the thing he genuinely believes is his strongest card.
I love Sansa, as I loved her mother.
And everything in the scene shifts. Because this line is doing three things simultaneously. It establishes his feelings for Sansa as the justification for his loyalty. I'm not your enemy because I love her. It invokes Catelyn as the template for that love, the woman he was obsessed with for decades, whose death he helped cause. And it reveals, whether Littlefinger intends it to or not, that the man who has been maneuvering around Sansa for years doesn't experience her as a person. He experiences her as a continuation of an obsession with a dead woman. Martin constructs Littlefinger's fixation on the Tully women with extraordinary psychological precision throughout the books. In A Storm of Swords, he writes Littlefinger looking at Sansa and seeing Catelyn at the same age, and the horror of that moment is precisely what this scene is built on. It isn't love, it's possession. The need to own something he was denied. Shakespeare understood this psychology in Othello. The man who cannot possess what he desires will eventually destroy it rather than allow it to belong to someone else. Littlefinger has been moving toward that same destination with Sansa since the moment he first saw her. Jon doesn't have access to the specific detail from the books, but he hears what the sentence actually means, and his body responds before his words can.
Touch my sister, and I'll kill you myself.
The hand around the throat cuts through every layer of subtext and positioning and careful language that Littlefinger uses to make everything mean something other than what it is. Jon doesn't counter-argue. He doesn't expose the manipulation or deliver a speech about honor or loyalty. He states the consequence clearly, physically, and walks away. And this is what makes the scene so devastating for Littlefinger, because he has just encountered the one kind of person he genuinely cannot work with. Not an enemy he can outmaneuver, not an ally he can corrupt, not someone with a price he hasn't found yet. Someone who is simply impervious to the tools he uses, because those tools only work on people who are performing something. And Jon Snow has never performed anything in his life. Littlefinger walked into this crypt with a complete profile. Bastard, outsider, loves his family, carries guilt about Catelyn, indebted after the battle, about to leave Winterfell and leave Sansa exposed. He had a move prepared for every angle. He had studied this conversation before it happened. and Jon Snow grabbed him by the throat and made every bit of that preparation irrelevant. The deeper irony is that Littlefinger isn't entirely wrong about his own usefulness. He did save Jon's life. The Knights of the Vale are a real military asset. In a purely political calculation, Jon probably should maintain the relationship, or at least not antagonize it openly. But Jon doesn't make purely political calculations. He never has. And it's worth understanding why that isn't simply naivety. This connects to something Martin has always written about the central tension running through the entire series: the collision between honor and survival in Westeros. Ned Stark died because he played the game with a knight's code in a city full of knaves. His honor made him predictable. Littlefinger could map it, exploit it, use it as a weapon against him. Jon, standing in his father's crypt, appears to make the same mistake. But there's a crucial difference. Ned's honor operated within the game's framework. He believed in the rules even when others didn't, which meant his moves could be anticipated and countered. Jon's directness exists outside the framework entirely. You can't exploit a move that isn't a move. You can't anticipate someone who isn't calculating. You can't manipulate someone who isn't performing anything. Littlefinger's entire skill set, reading people, finding leverage, constructing narratives, requires a target who is playing some version of the same game. Jon simply isn't. The scene ends with Jon walking out and Littlefinger alone in the crypt, standing among the bones of the family he has spent decades using as pieces on his board. Left there by the one member of that family he simply could not calculate. And for the first time in 7 seasons, you see on Littlefinger's face something he almost never shows. He doesn't know what just happened. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a comment, give a like, and click to subscribe. Your support will greatly help the mysterious algorithm notice me. And if you want to support me personally, you can join my Patreon through the link below. It means the world and helps me keep making content like this. See you next time.